In the best of circumstances, a kid coming off their PlayStation 5 or their video games or screen time of any sort doesn't have full access to their brain. Now, we're not here to say all screens are bad. It is the world that we live in, particularly for preteen and teenage boys. This is their social culture. And so, like all things here at the Jai Institute for Parenting, the answer often lies in the gray, in the nuance of limits, boundaries, and expectations. In this parent coaching session, you're going to hear from a mom who is so frustrated with her 14-year-old son for not following through on his commitments about keeping his gaming area clean. You're going to see how she does this very human thing of kind of leapfrogging to a conclusion about who her child is, which is so natural. We all do it, especially when we're scared, when we're fearful that our kid is going to have lasting repercussions given the behavior that they are demonstrating. This session is so applicable to so many of us. It speaks to frustrations that we all have as parents. And at the end, Delicia and I have a conversation with very actionable ideas of how to meet our children in the middle of their desire to be on screens and our needs and expectations of them to still participate in the family, follow through on their commitments, and exhibit discipline around the time that they have on screens. Enjoy today's session. Let us know your comments. We'd love to hear from you. You can reach us at support@JaiInstituteForParenting.com. And if you'd like a great resource on our peace method, which is all about setting boundaries and limits peacefully. And if you'd like to learn our 5-step peace process, which is all about setting healthy limits and boundaries peacefully, you can grab our Peaceful Parenting 5-part mini course at JaiInstituteForParenting.com/peace. We'll link to it in the show notes as well. Enjoy today's session.
So I don't mind that he's not doing it. I think for me, it's just the dishonesty. So on any given time, if I asked him in his area, he has a gaming room. There may be, if we went and got him Chick-fil-A, he ate it down there. And I asked him to bring the trash up and he said, I will. He does not bring it up. Or if I ask him to clean up something in his room, he doesn't clean it up. He's saying he may say he does it or not. Yeah. But he's just not being honest about it. Or if I say, what time did you go to sleep last night? He'll say 11 and it was 1:00. So I don't understand where the dishonesty is coming from, why he has to lie about it. Yeah. And I want him to understand it's important that you be honest because this carries over into your adulthood life, and I need to be able to trust you. If you tell me something, I need to trust that those are your words, and other people around you need to trust when you say you're going to do something, you do it. Yeah. And it's like, don't I always do what I say I'm going to do? Yeah. I always say I'm going to do what I'm going to do. If I can't do it, I'll tell you that I cannot do it.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So I'm hearing two important values that you hold in high regard or their priority, which is trust and integrity. Mm-hmm. And it sounds like you're modeling that to him in your work, in your parenting, in your life, that when you tell him you're going to do something, you do it. And you're confused how that hasn't translated over to him being able to take responsibility for, even if he's done something, just being able to say, sorry, Mom, I didn't do it, or I forgot to do it. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. All right. So can we unpack a little bit? I heard you mention he has a gaming room. And I want to unpack that one example that you gave. He has a gaming room. He had a Chick-fil-A there, and you asked him to bring the trash up, and he didn't do it. I'm curious to know what the communication was like before the Chick-fil-A was given to him, after he had eaten it and when you had asked him, what was your part in communicating what you needed him to do? What did that sound like?
Now, on some days, there may be no communication because I would expect that he would bring it up. So when I noticed that, say Tuesday, he had dinner and didn't bring it up, and then I go back down Wednesday and we got Chick-fil-A, and Wednesday's still down there, and Thursday, I'm like, Benjamin, when you finish eating this, can you bring all this stuff up?
Yeah. Okay.
So that's kind of, maybe there's an inconsistency there because I may not always go in the gaming room, but when I go in there, I ask him to clean it up.
Mm-hmm.
And that could be part of the issue or part of the problem because it's not a consistent thing.
Yeah. 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 I love that word, consistency. And I wonder if, so it sounds like you're not in that gaming room in his space all the time. So you're not aware of what is happening. And it sounds like this is also a space for him. And
yes, ma'am. And then
the rest of the family.
And I also think the bigger picture is Benjamin is the second child. He has an older brother. So I think a lot of the focus was kind of on the older brother.
Yeah.
And then now that Benjamin's the only one at home, it's like kind of backtracking in a sense to get him in line and in order. Whereas before it was always the business of the older brother.
Yeah.
And I think there was not a lot of focus on him in certain areas.
All right. And that makes sense. If what's the age difference between?
They're 7 years apart.
Okay. And how long has Benjamin been the only one at home?
3 years. His brother's a junior in college, so 3 years.
3 years. Okay. So for 3 years, he's been receiving more attention than he ever has in his whole life.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. Absolutely.
Okay. And are you aware of what that's like for him? Has he expressed?
Yes.
Yeah.
No, he has not. And that's the thing. Sometimes I do feel like a mother. Oh, I don't want to get emotional. That it's hard for him to process because he's always had his brother there. And now that it's just him, I feel like he misses his brother, which I understand and I get. And I want to be there for him, but also in a loving, motherly way. You still have to move on with your life, and there are still things that you have to learn.
And the emotion, what can you tell me what's behind your emotion that came up?
I think I can feel how Benjamin feels the missing his brother being there. Because like I said, Benjamin has had him there all of his life pretty much until, just these past 3 years. So I can imagine it being like your best friend or someone that's very close to you, and all of a sudden they're no longer there.
Yeah.
So I feel the absence of his brother for him. And I think as his mother, sometimes I don't know how to balance that. As a mother, because it's different coming from a mother than it would be a sibling,
Yes.
Because I guess I looked at a mother as being the strong one, the person that gives you direction and guidance.
Yeah.
So I don't know how to give him what he needs at this moment.
Yeah. That makes sense. Because you aren't a bigger brother. You are his mother. You have a different.
Yes.
And that
yes
sense of feeling his longing for his brother, his missing his brother. I imagine there's some of that for you too.
Yeah.
The absence of your eldest son in the home is a missing piece for you too. So
right.
That's something you and Benjamin share. And that Big Brother's not here and we miss him. And I'm curious as you're sharing that, because he's played such a big role in his life, is if you were to think back before he moved out, the problems you're having right now with Benjamin in terms of not understanding why he's not being honest about the things he's done or hasn't done, was this a problem while your eldest son was in the house?
To be honest, it probably was. And like I said, I never really focused on it because his older brother was always like, go, go, go. And so it probably has always been there, and I probably just recognized it.
Yeah. Okay. So now there's a spotlight. He's the only one standing in the spotlight. So it's just
Right.
right. And so I wonder if, with the intention of trying to understand why Benjamin isn't able, or not even isn't able, I wonder if he's aware of the fact that he's not being honest in your experience of communicating with him.
I told him.
Yeah. And what's his
So he's aware.
Is he aware that he is telling a lie, or is he saying, I forgot? Or, yeah.
He's saying I forgot. He says I don't remember and I forgot a lot. That's his way of saying it. I forgot or I don't remember. He said I can't remember. He said I have a hard time remembering things. I forget a lot. That's what he uses, what he says all the time. I forgot.
I forgot. I forget a lot. I have a hard time remembering. Do you believe?
And that's only when no, I don't believe him. It's only when it's things that I ask of him, depending on what it is. Like he has chores that he's supposed to do, like, making sure there's always water in the refrigerator, taking out the trash, I can come home, his dad may have gone to the store, got the water, set it on the counter right by the refrigerator. All he has to do is put it in the refrigerator. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, Benjamin, can you please come put the water in? He said, okay, I'll do it before I go to bed. Get up the next morning. It's still there.
Yeah. Okay, so more than him having a bad memory and having a hard time remembering things, because he remembers to go play his games. He remembers when he's got a baseball game on. He remembers when he's got a call with a friend or whatever is happening in his life. He remembers all of those things.
Yes, yes.
Specifically around chores and getting those done where he struggles to remember. So I'm curious about, one, you mentioned the lack of consistency. And you mentioned there's an expectation. So sometimes you don't even make the request because you just expect him to know that after you've eaten dinner, take your plate up, put it in the dishwasher, close the dishwasher door, and then turn off the lights, right? It seems pretty obvious. So why is he not doing it? So I wonder if he just doesn't know what that expectation is. It isn't clear enough. And whether he needs, even though he's 14 years old,
right.
He needs his hand held a little bit because he have missed the hand holding when his older brother was there, right? He just learn. Yeah. How does that?
Yeah, and that sounds about right, because I think in the section where we talked about, just because children are a certain age, we feel like they should know how to do things, but they really don't, because their minds haven't fully developed. And that's where the light bulb kind of came on for me. This is probably what's going on with Benjamin. Although he's in 9th grade, although he's 14, he still may not have gotten a grasp, a hold of what he needs to do.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I just need to know, I don't want to push him too hard, but I just need to know, how do I get him to start understanding this is what you have to do? Because I think for me, it's like high school. I always tell him, each grade prepares you for the next. Even I have to start talking to him about, okay, what do you want to go to college for? You want to play baseball, but what is your major? We have to start thinking about these things because time goes by fast. I said, we don't have to decide today, but just start thinking about those things.
Yeah. Okay, so let's get back to a simple request. Put the water in the fridge. It's on the counter. All you have to do is pick it up, open the door, put it in, and it's done. And he says, I'll do it later. What's your response there? Do you say, okay, thanks, yeah, do it later? Or how do you respond?
Well, can you do it before you go to bed?
Yeah. Okay. Is that your response?
And then a part of me, in all honesty, is like, if he doesn't do it, I feel bad if I have to reprimand him, because I feel like he's already in denial or missing his brother. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to feel like, okay, now, and because as a parent, we have kind of failed at giving him instruction prior to now.
Okay, so
I don't want to just come down hard, but these are just like simple things that you have to start doing yourself.
Yeah. Okay. And so if we were to look at him as, you're 14 years old, you're in the 9th grade. If we had helped you and guided you and been clear and consistent
Mm-hmm.
All these years, we may not be struggling with the chores as we are struggling right now. But
Correct.
because of the past and the history and the way you grew up with an older brother who probably took, you know, a lot of the brunt for you, who probably took responsibility and stepped up in your place, you didn't have to do a lot of these chores. And now we're expecting and asking that of you. So,
Mm-hmm.
how can we help you? And this is an important part of discipline, or at least the reframe about the definition of discipline, of the reframe of making requests of our children. Number one, how can we help them be
Mm-hmm.
successful in what we're asking them to do? How can we give them the tools, the language, the ability to, when I say put the water in the fridge or bring the plates up from the game room, they know exactly what that looks like. So when
Mm-hmm.
I'm coaching parents of younger children, I typically use the example of when we ask our children, clean your room, right?
Mm-hmm.
I have an idea of what a clean room looks like, and my child has an idea of what a clean room. So we actually have to show them a clean room looks like books on the shelf with the spine
Mm-hmm.
facing outwards, all the clothes in the laundry basket. The cupboard doors are closed. The bed is made.
Mm-hmm.
The pencils are in the drawer, right? So we actually have to show them. And for a lot of times with young children, what you would do is do the chore with them. So,
Mm-hmm.
Benjamin, please put the fridge in the water. I'll do it later. I'd really appreciate if you did it right now, because then we could enjoy some water later on. So can you come over? I'll open the door for you. Yeah, pop it in.
Mm-hmm.
All right, done. Right. So then the next time you ask him to put the water in the fridge, one, he's had the experience of how easy it can be. You haven't made it something that's a chore. It's just like, I'll hold the door. You pop it in. Right. And then when you call from work, hey, Benjamin, I think your dad said he bought some water. Could you just pop it in the fridge? I'd love a cold glass of water when I get home. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. How does that sound? I mean,
Yeah, I've done that before.
yeah. There we
I have helped him before. It's just that I guess not every time I've helped him. Um, it's like I feel like the times he's done it, I've had to help him do it.
Yeah. And that's the part, like, if you had to imagine him as this, I imagine he's a big boy, 14, they grow, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you just see him as a 14-year-old with
Mm-hmm.
the chore brain of a 6-year-old that
Mm-hmm.
needs a lot of hand holding. And
Mm-hmm.
we hold their hands until they let go.
Right. Mm-hmm.
I can do this by myself. I get it now, mom. I know I need to carry my dishes up. And then they give us attitude, and you're like, I'm just helping this time, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. So is there
Okay.
any space in you that can see that, like removing the expectation and seeing, even if you have to go find a picture of 6-year-old Benjamin, just every time you're asking him to do the chore, you're like, I'm asking 6-year-old Benjamin to do this chore.
Yes. Absolutely. Yes, I can do that. Yes.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
Which is the first chore we're going in?
Keeping his area clean in the gaming room, because that's one thing I don't have. They don't have any video games or any gaming stuff in their room. I told them their room, we don't have TVs or nothing in any of our rooms, because I'm like, rooms are going to be to sleep, read,
Yeah.
and that's it. I said, if you want to get up, watch TV or go play a video game, you have to physically get out the bed and go, because they want them laying in their bed watching TV all the time or playing video games all the time.
Yeah.
So cleaning his area in his gaming room would be one.
Okay. And what are the expectations from your side of a clean gaming room?
Just take the trash up. I mean, pretty much, I mean, he's just sitting at a desk, but if he has something, he just leaves it on a desk, on the floor. Just clean up the trash every night. Bring it up and put it in the trash.
Yeah.
I
Does
can
he
take
have,
bags
does he
down.
have a trash bin? Does he have a trash bin?
Yes,
Everything?
yes.
Okay. So this
With
could,
bags in it. All he has to do is pick, and I put bags in the bottom of the trash can. All you got to do is take the bag out and put a new bag in it.
you do that. Yeah. Okay. So this is where you have to set some, so to avoid the frustration, you also need to set some boundaries in place, right? You're putting the trash in there. Again, I'm using an example of a younger child with lunch boxes. I've heard parents say to me, they're losing their lunchbox every day. And I'm like, well, who's packing the lunchbox? Oh, I am. So they don't
Mhm.
know all the parts that are supposed to come home because you've packed it. They just eat it, have fun, and then they
And
go,
they're
right?
probably throwing it away.
Or throw it away. Yeah. And then they can't find it. So with this, he's 14 years old. He can do it. You could send him down with the clean trash bag. Please pop this in your bin. So whatever you're eating can go in there. And then when you're logging off, while you're waiting for your computer to shut down, just grab the bag out of the bin and walk upstairs with it or walk out with it. Right. And then your consistency will have to be in checking in. I'm going to help you get this right. So I might remind you, I might be a little bit annoying, but until we get it right, I'll just keep checking in that
Mhm.
there's no trash. And what's the value behind that? I'm sure you have a value about a cleanly home. You don't want
Mhm.
roaches coming in there. You don't want it
Yep.
stinking. Yeah. And this is teaching him how to be an independent man that gets to live in his own place and live in a beautiful space.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So we need to communicate that to him. And it might
Okay.
be in one ear and out the other. And that's when we
Mhm.
come back up and say, I'm just going to keep checking it
Mhm.
until we
Okay.
understand one another.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. Have you got this?
Yes, I can do that.
You got it, right? You're going to
I
take
think I think I was kind of on the same page, but I do need to think of him, the younger version of him. That was the disconnect for me. Um, Giving him the things that he needed to do, but understanding he needs his hand held a little bit more.
yeah.
Just because I see he's 14.
And that can be so hard as we see our children growing up, especially I think a
Mhm.
mother-son relationship, because he's starting to look like a man.
Yes.
You just got to remember there's a little baby boy in there that
Yes, absolutely.
didn't have
Mhm.
all the opportunities his big brother had.
Mhm.
And you did a great job with his big brother, clearly, if he's been able to move on, move out, and be successful in what he's doing right now. You did
Mhm.
something right there. So you just need to
Mhm.
find what worked there and give that to Benjamin.
Yes.
Thank you.
Mhm. You're welcome. Thank you for clarity on this. Thank you. I
That was
appreciate it.
was a fun conversation. I hope that you both get to enjoy honesty and cooperation.
Mhm. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Shauna.
All right. Thank
All
you.
right, we'll
Thank you
chat
so much.
soon.
Hey, I love this mom. And I think she's so lovable because she's speaking to a specific frustration that all of us have experienced as parents, which is like, how hard is it to take the pitcher of water and put it in the refrigerator? Or how hard is it after I've told you 100 times to bring down the Chick-fil-A wrappers after your video game session, right? Like, if any parent listening to this has not been through this particular scenario, I don't know if we can be friends. It's so normal and
Oh,
so
I'd say
frustrating.
wait for it. It's coming.
Yeah, and I think, it was I mean, you did such a beautiful job in this coaching session because it was fascinating, and this is so common, and we hear this all the time as parent coaches. A parent comes to the conversation having ascribed all of this meaning to these interactions, right? So at the beginning of the session, this mom was saying, I'm worried about his integrity. Honesty is really important to me. And he's saying he's going to do these things and he's not. So therefore, he's lying. And now this whole scenario has this weight of, it's not about the action being followed through on. It's like, is this kid a good person?
Yeah.
Why do we do, I mean, I've done it too. Why do we like take it to DEFCON 5, do you think?
Yeah. Well, the first thing that comes to my mind is this mom is looking through a lens of fear. And I think whenever we come into perceiving our children in a way that says, are they going to be a person of integrity? Are they going to do what they say or is expected of them? And when they don't, we jump to our fear response, which is, oh no, they aren't. So we're just seeing them through this lens of fear, and then fear snowballs into the reactions that we have over our children. You don't listen to me. You don't do what I ask you to do. And I think in this coaching session, it went from fear, as you said in the beginning, and we traveled through it, and I think we ended with the love perspective.
So good. Yeah, I mean, I think I'll just speak to my own story a little bit around this particular issue because I've absolutely been in this mom's place because particularly, I lied a ton as a kid. It was how I perceived that I needed to stay safe, right? Like, don't be in trouble, lie about it. So then you're going to be taken care of. No one's going to abandon you, right? It really became such a situation that caused just massive repercussions and consequences and harm in my life. And so, once I learned that being a person of integrity mattered, it's like a bone, it's like when my kids, even have a whiff of like, ooh, someone's not telling the truth. I mean, they will tell you, I've learned to like breathe, get curious and ask, but that is like the third rail for me because it matters so much. And I heard that a lot too, not saying that this mom, learned to lie growing up, but how important it is to her.
Yeah, absolutely. And from our conversation, it was clear that she is intentional about raising a son who goes out into the world and can be honest and can be relied upon to do what he needs to do. And I think having an older son who's already out of the home, successful in his own right, she wants the same for her younger son. And the realization is that he needs the same care and attention and support that she was able to give her eldest son. But just seeing that, the youngest one can't just automatically get that. And again, it goes back to the fear. She's seeing her youngest son in the home now and thinking about him in 5 or 6 years' time when he goes off to college.
Right. Like the timeline is getting short once you're in the ninth grade. I thought it was really brilliant. So one of our kind of go-to sayings here, this comes from our amazing director of education, Rebecca Liddon: under stress, we regress. And so here we have a 14-year-old child who really was kind of like floating under the radar of his big brother's capacity and ability and kind of big brotherness. And now big brother has left. So there's, as was spoken about, a lot of feelings about that. And all of a sudden, mom's on him.
Yeah.
What happens? So in a child's brain, particularly in this kind of preteen period, and that kind of message of like, you're not getting it right, you're not getting it right, you're not getting it right. How does that impact, like, how would you imagine that's being interpreted in that 14-year-old boy? And I'm asking you to hypothesize here.
Yeah. Well, I'll respond on my experience with any child who is a gamer, is that when they are gaming, they aren't really open to hearing us, not because they don't want to, but because they can't. Their brain is so fully absorbed in whatever game they're playing. There's this flood of dopamine, there's cortisol coursing through their body. And for a parent to ask a child in that state, please remember to do that, or don't forget to do that, it doesn't even go through
like
to
the
them.
Snoopy commercial, like,
that's it. Yeah, that's exactly it. And then parents get frustrated because they think that their children aren't listening to them. But it's really important to understand that our children aren't hearing us. And another phrase that comes from wonderful Rebecca is, it's not that they won't, it's that they can't. And so developing the skills to know when the appropriate time to ask these questions is, so that our child hears us, and then checking in with our child. Did you hear me? What is it that I asked of you? What is the expectation? Are we in agreement that this will be done by this and this time? And so that's what's happening in their brains. And a lot of parents aren't aware of that. And so they get into this stressed state and regress into behaviors that they regret because they're just not approaching their children at the ideal time for them to receive what it is that we need.
Yeah. I could imagine someone's listening to this and saying, well, then just remove access to the games. But I don't think that's what you're saying. Can you
No,
clarify?
not at all. Yeah, absolutely. No, I think it's almost impossible to remove access to the games.
Yeah.
And we don't want to do that. Our children enjoy connecting with their friends online. I think what's more important is creating time and space to have these conversations when they aren't in front of the screen.
Yeah.
So yelling to your child from the kitchen, don't forget to put the water away. You can assume with almost 100% accuracy that they haven't heard you. And
Mm.
what's needed is, excuse me, pause. Can you look at me? I have something I need to ask you. All right. Did
Mm.
you hear me? Awesome. Great. And then they can go back to their game. And then another important thing that came up was how do we help our children be successful? This
Yes.
is where discipline comes into the conversation because we're not asking parents to step back and just allow their children to play games and get away with not contributing in the home.
Yeah.
But it's how can we help them be successful in that?
Yeah, it's structures, right? It's agreements, it's following through. And as parents, being consistent in our follow through of that expectation until it becomes kind of habitualized behavior, which does happen. That's how brains, neural pathways are developed is through repetition, doing it the same way every time, setting up systems for reminders. Let's talk about discipline for a second because, people are like, wait, the peaceful parenting show. Actually, it's called the Parent Coaching Show, but we're all about peaceful parenting and gentle parenting and not using punishments, consequences, taking away the games, not allowing them to go to the friends when they don't do the thing. Can you share your definition of discipline with me?
Yeah, I'll share my definition, which
Yeah.
I've adopted from Jai, which is how can I help you? That is what discipline means. It's putting a boundary in place, having limits for your child, and then looking at that and saying, how can I help you be successful in not crossing this boundary, in staying within the limit here?
Yeah.
And the way in which we come to support our children in that is really making agreements with them. Here's the boundary. Here's what's allowed. Here's what's not allowed. And how can I help you? You struggle maybe to get out the door on time. So how can I help you get out the door on time? You struggle to know when your gaming time is done, right? Or the timer runs out and you're still playing. So how can I support you?
Mm.
And I could share personally what I've done with my children is really create a transition activity. So going from something fun like gaming and saying, well, we're going to go do something fun now. Maybe we'll go for a walk. Maybe we'll play a board game. So I help them to transition out of that without it being a fight, and
Yeah.
it can be fun. Yeah.
Dance party in the kitchen whilst making dinner.
Yes.
I think
Or
it's
let's go cut
important.
up fruit. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh, or let's go cut up some fruits. I know my youngest son loves snacking, and when he's been on the games for a long time,
Yeah.
sometimes he forgets to eat. So let's go cut up your favorite fruit and eat that together.
Yeah, definitely. One of the things I wanted to circle back to was this structure of an agreement conversation and how important it is to have that conversation outside of any conflict or heightened emotions about that thing, right? Because if it's like they just got off the game and they didn't do the thing and now we want to create an agreement, just nobody's in the right space for that. And so, family dinners, having a family meeting, talking about it at the breakfast table. Can you talk about the importance of connection before agreement setting conversations?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what you're circling back to here is what we started with, which was safety. And it's really hard to communicate safety to your child when your body has cortisol running through it because you are frustrated and disappointed and upset because you've asked so many times and your child isn't able to do it. So creating an agreement immediately after a very contentious, stressful event isn't the ideal time. But like you said, at dinner time, when everyone's relaxed, you've had time to think about what it is that's causing stress, that's causing frustration, that's causing disconnection and misunderstanding. And you can present that to your child as an observation. I noticed we're struggling here. And I'm jumping into our NVC that we teach here, but expressing to your child how that makes you feel, what you're needing, and taking the time to see it from their perspective as well. And with the 14-year-old, it's really easy. And I would recommend that you bring them into the conversation. If you got any ideas for how we can make this easier, smoother, better for us, and then taking their ideas on board and coming to an agreement that doesn't have to be set in stone. Let's try this out for a month. And if it works, we keep going. If it doesn't, then we'll just see
Talk
what else
about it again. We'll talk about it again. It's, I think this idea that, like, I'm going to have this conversation, and if it doesn't work, this whole parenting without punishments and consequences thing doesn't work. I think it's really important to really say very clearly, like, this conversation may happen many times over the course of a year or 2 years. It's our continually coming back to it and speaking to the values, speaking to the impact on our feelings and our needs that will create the muscles that we want our children to develop around follow through and commitment and telling the truth. But there's no magic pill here. They're kids.
Exactly. And I think what I loved that came out of our conversation in this session was I asked Shauna if she could hold her son's hand until he didn't need her to hold it anymore. And you speak about building this muscle. We don't go to the gym once and have the six-pack and the biceps, right? We need to keep doing this over and over again. And this is where a coach is really helpful. And this is where checking in with your children on the agreements is really helpful. Is this still working for us? Are we happy with the way things are going? And if no, then what needs to change? So it is an ongoing conversation. And there'll be times where the structure needs to be flexible because we're on summer break or we're on holiday or we have family visiting. And so what happens in those cases? That's another conversation that needs to happen. So yeah, it's ongoing. It never ends.
Great news. It is great news. It's, I don't know, I think for me as a mom, those conversations, and particularly what you said, Delisha, about the solutions that they have, the suggestions that they've brought forward. I don't know if this is all kids, but for my kids, they've been far more likely to follow through when it was their idea and not mine.
Oh, yeah.
Especially as they get older.
Yeah. And children have great ideas. Sometimes we're so focused on the one thing they're doing, we don't see another part of that, and our children can bring that into our perspective for us. They have excellent ideas. So a good practice is to hear theirs first and then offer your own. And that gives them that intrinsic motivation to do what it is they said they do because, hey, I came up with that. And I thought it was pretty brilliant. So yeah, it's wonderful to
hear that. So smart.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Delisha. Such good stuff.
Thank you, Kiva.